Hello everybody, Siraj here, and today I am bringing you guys another replay analysis. I haven't made a video in a while, so I'm kind of catching up with some of the people that send me replays. I really appreciate it when you guys do send me replays, and usually I'll try and at least cover one replay from everybody who sends me a replay. So remember, if anyone's interested in sending me a replay, getting a replay analysis, send them to siraztv@gmail.com. That's siraztv@gmail.com. It's really not that hard to spell, but apparently it's hard to say. And one thing I want to point out is people have been sending me a lot of games where they win, right? I think if you want to just kind of show off or have some cool strategy or some cool game, yeah, okay, send me a game that you win, and let me know that, right? Let me know that it's just kind of a show-off game or show-off a strategy or something like that, right? But if you really want to get your replay analyzed and want some tips on your replay, I suggest you send me games that you lose. Okay? So I think you will learn more from your losses than your wins, right? But anyways, let's get on with this game. This is HH Whiskey here is the guy who sent me this replay, and he is playing against a Protoss player here. So we'll have to see what happens. I've actually not watched this replay before, so I'm trying to just gonna go over it as everything occurs. So standard opening, this looks good, right? Gas, 14 gas, 14 pool. And then drone up to 15 and get an Overlord is what I suspect we're going to see. Just an early speed build. One thing, these little things really do help. You know, check your timing here. I'd suggest that what you do is for your next 10 games, make sure you get your guys on gas right away or something like that. And that'll definitely help. Oh, and what is this? So you're actually going for a early Roach Warren. Mistake. If you're going to do this build, you want to go pool then gas, because you don't need the early gas if you're going a Roach Warren, in my opinion. So, well, I could be wrong. You might be doing some sort of early Roach Ling time to push. In that case, you do want the early gas because you need that early speed, right? So if you get the early speed, well, then I think gas is a better choice. But if you're going to go for just like a pure early Roach army, delay your gas because you just won't need it. What I'm trying to get at here. And yeah, it looks like you're going pure Roach at this point, so delay that gas a little bit. You don't need as much early gas, especially considering, you know, look, yeah, you're probably gonna be able to use your gas here, but look at all the time you had with this extractor up that your guys weren't mining. So, but this is not, you know, a bad idea. Mixing in a Roach Rush every now and then definitely will throw Protoss off, and I actually like it. I think maybe not the most solid play on the ladder, but definitely a very, very viable option, especially on some smaller maps, or maps like, I actually like it on Shakuris a lot too, because a lot of times Protoss players think you're going to play a macro game on this map, but throw them off, you know, get some early roaches, put out some early pressure, maybe do some damage. I think it could really help you. Now, this. Ugh, bad, right? Don't do this. Don't go one basing, scout Roach or scout the 4-gate, which you did, which is very good. You know, that was an excellent scout. Definitely scout the 4-gate. You should expect it, but don't throw up spines. You don't need them in this situation. You should be able to hold this off without these spines. I mean, each one of these spines could be 6 lings. So that's 12 more lings to help you defend if you wanted. And in this situation, you really do need speedlings because, oh, there you go, finally getting speedlings, but you really need speedlings to stop any sort of stalker push, because all these stalkers can just kite these roaches to Kingdom Come, and all your roaches will lose, right? So if you're not going to move out with some sort of really early roach pressure, try and catch the Protoss player before you know, he gets any stalkers out to do some damage, get speed a lot quicker. In fact, honestly, if you're going to do a roach rush, in this matchup, I really think you should get speed like immediately, and then just get a handful of roaches, and then transition to mass speedlings. That's kind of the build I like to do. I'm on smaller maps sometimes against Protoss. I'll build like 4 roaches and just a ton of speedlings. Blistering Sands, I love this build. Build 4 roaches, ton of speedlings, and then just swarm their base through the rocks, while at the same time getting an expansion up. And it really puts a lot of pressure early on the Protoss, really hard for him to deal with. He has to respond. It's kind of like a 4-gate, but at the same time, it allows you to get up your expansion, and it's a really solid build. But yeah, anyways, just these spine crawlers, absolutely useless. One thing I see lower level players doing all the time is they randomly throw up spine crawlers in terrible situations for them. So if you're ever in this situation, don't fucking throw up spine crawlers. You're trying to one base here. You should be able to get out an army to deal with this Protoss push. And notice when this came out, this 4-gate really late. And then now you're finally expanding. This, I don't know. This whole... I just don't like your build process in general. I think if you get out that early Roach Warrant and want to do some sort of one-base timing attack, go for it. It's definitely viable, right? But if you're not going to do it, just kind of don't want to die to the early aggression, this is not the way to do it, because this is going to put you way behind in the mid-game if you do this. And surprisingly, you know, you're not that bad, but I think if you do a different build, you could have been way ahead of this guy, right? Like, way ahead. Like, it's not even fair how much ahead you could have been. So I think it's a big mistake. And also, let's take a look at this, right? Army value. This guy's army's huge compared to yours. Look at this. Look at this. He could just walk up and crush you right now. And there'd be nothing you could do about it. You'd lose your expansion. I think you're behind in harvester count. Just not a good situation to be in, right? And think about this. If you didn't have these spine crawlers, you'd be up in harvester count. Plus, your army would be a lot closer to the size of your opponents. I just think spine crawler is a terrible decision. Yeah, you're gonna move them down here, but oh, you're actually building more spine crawlers. You know, at this point, why don't you just move your spine crawlers down here, right? I don't know. I don't like this build at all. I think it had no purpose. So if you're going to do something with your build, every time you do it, you should think, why am I doing this? What is its purpose? What is this going to help me accomplish, right? Well, in this case, a lot of things. I mean, you build all these roaches early, right? And then your opponent just doesn't attack. And you're going to find yourself attacking in front of you. So here you're doing pretty good. Your opponent just kind of attacked in a bad situation here. Not really sure what's going on. I mean, if he moved up here, he could have got a better arc. And he could have got some nice force fields to really do some damage to you, but for whatever reason, he didn't. And it's really good for you. I think you finally stabilized a little bit before you were in a very precarious situation. So, I'm really surprised nothing happened. You guys both built huge armies, and really, nothing really went on. So, I don't know. A lot of problems with the play on both sides. And building even more spine crawlers. This is way more than you need. I mean, you're up to 6 spine crawlers. You should have just, you should have brought these 2 down. And really, 4 is okay at this base, but you really don't need too many more. I think this is just almost overkill, especially considering, the Protoss will take a second relatively soon. I don't know if you've scouted it at all. No, you haven't, but the Protoss will probably take a second relatively soon on this map, right? And that means you need to get your 3rd up really fast on this map. And if you invest in all these spine crawlers, it's going to be hard to do. Also, a lot of this defense won't be able to defend your 3rd if your opponent tries to stop it from going up. So, I think you're overcommitting the spine crawlers. crawlers, honestly. Good, you did have an overlord up here, so you do see this coming, and the question is, will you be able to prepare for it? You should be moving your army up. There you go, very nice. And I think you should be able to defend against this. One thing to note, your queen, very high on energy. Alright, so yeah, you got into a good position here. So your opponent does not have any sort of your army have there. Very nice. Lose a lot of forces there. Be careful about that. You know, if you're defending, you want to keep this high ground advantage. That's your ability to go there. You don't want to chase after them unless you're sure that you have a lot of fun. So now it's looking very bad for you, but the game does go on, so you're able to hold. And I like this, you know, I do like this player. Even though I don't think you're really getting use out of it, and right now you really should be going Roach Link is the best option in this situation. But if he does transition to Colossus, having that Spire out, it's very handy. So this is an important lesson. You don't want to let your opponent sneak in like this. Kill your workers. There's a lot of workers there. Luckily for you, your opponent's actually not very good, so you don't have very large. So at this point, you know, your composition's okay. You have an idea of what you need to go on. Get the road to the gateway. Get out that Spire, switch it to Colossus, right? And it's a pretty solid build. However, at this point, you're 17 minutes into the game, right? At this point, Zerg players can be maxed, can have 200 armies easily. I've had numerous games where I can have 200 armies. And why is your army not 200 at this point? Or not even close? Like, even considering that you know, even considering the situation where this is silly. What you should have just done there is snipe snipe his sentries there and just try and do as much damage as possible. I think running around like that is faster. But what at this point in the game has really caused your army to be, or your economy to be so crippled that you can't even get close to being maxed at this point? A lot of things. One, you built early spine crawlers for no reason at all. You built early spine crawlers and then you attempted to defend your ramp down here. It doesn't even make sense. So think about this. Each one of these spine crawlers can be 2.5 drones, right? So that would put your army at 2.5 more drones, or my math sucks, 5 more drones, right? And not, at that point, you'd basically be equal with your Protoss opponent here, or whatever. But, and then also you built that early Roach Warren, and you didn't do anything with it. You spent the early money to build that Roach Warren, and you just kind of stockpiled roaches and sat on them. Well, that's not how you want to play Zerg. Not at all. It's, what you want to do here is, I don't think it's a terrible build to get an early Roach Warren, but you have to make use of those roaches. Otherwise, for every, you know, for any amount of army you have just like sitting here for no reason that it hasn't done anything, it could be drones. Like a long time ago, this army could have been drones. And then, you know, the earlier you build the drones, the better your economy is, the better use you get out of these drones, and later on you can just even have a larger army. That's what I'm trying to get at. So I think what you should really do here is practice more. If you're not going to do any sort of early pressure, practice fast expand builds, or speedling expand builds, or something that'll just allow you to get your economy in overdrive a lot quicker. And I think that will really help you. I mean, at this point, 20 minutes into the game, you should have your 3rd and 4th up. You should have about 70 workers, and you should definitely be maxed. but you're not even close. Macro here. Macro is what you really need to work on. You need to work on your injects, your queens are getting high in energy, and you need to pump workers more aggressively. I mean, you need to pump workers more aggressively. It's you can't stay an equal number of base as a Protoss. You never want to be behind in the worker count, obviously, well as any race, but you just need to pump more workers way more aggressively, way more earlier. You know, I don't know. I think you saw that 4-gate coming, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna hold it on one base. And you hear all these Protoss players saying, well, Zergs only have trouble with 4-gate because they stay on one base. Well, you know what? One hatchery is not equal to the production of one base of a Protoss or Terran, right? So to have equal production, I think, to a one base, you need at least 2 hatches. So yeah, you could throw up the second hatch in base, and then you'll be sitting, you know, equal bases with the Terran or Protoss, and that's fine. But why not? When there's such, or why not just throw out your natural when there's such an easy natural to take on most maps? There's no reason not to put that hatchery at your natural. So that's why I think you just need to expand early if you're playing this sort of build, especially if you're not going to do anything with your early roaches. Like, doesn't make any sense. So I think I think that really is what could have won you this game so much easier. And also your transitions are kind of silly. You get this Corruptor for absolutely no reason. He hasn't made Colossus. There's no reason. You know, you see Blink there. You get a Corruptor. Why? You know, I do agree, very good to get this Spire, but no reason for you to make Corruptors before you see Colossus, right? So this is just they're gonna do nothing here. Yeah, you might be able to get a Greater Spire out, but obviously that's not what you're thinking because you haven't started the Greater Spire, so kind of silly there. Also, if you see Blink Stalkers, you can't deal with them with straight Roach. You need either a lot of links, or well, okay, the guy like this. But if you get a constant one flash, you don't have to use Blink right now. Once you can kill your workers like that. You need either Hydras or Lings, or both. Definitely will help you. And that's one thing that I see a lot of lower level players do. They say, okay, I am going to make Roach Corruptor because, you know, I hear it's the best in the composition. I think a lot of Protoss, whenever they go to Colossus build with this, or whatever, right? And I don't care what you go with, I'm going Roach Corruptor. That's stupid. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that's stupid. You have to really think about the situation, what situation you're in, and figure out a good counter to it. So obviously this guy's Blink, right? He's just going mass Blink Stalker. Well, immediately your brain should be saying, alright, I can't deal with this with just Roach. I should get some Lings for now, and then try and get a Hydra Den, and go from there. That's probably your best option. And Infestors, you have that Infestation Pit, throw in like 3-4 Infestors will help you a ton of Blink, as if you Fungal Growth a Stalker, it will he won't be able to blink if you Fungal Growth him, right? Another thing I notice is you don't have queens at all your hatcheries, and you only have 1 queen. You should really work on this a little bit different. You know, you should work more on getting your queens in a good hotkey setup and really work on your inject timing. It's just abysmal at this point. I think that's another big flaw you have in your play. And so how I inject is I have 5, 6, and 7 as my queens, 8 if I get a 4th queen, and I just go 5-5 V click and inject. And I constantly am just going through 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I probably spend way too much attention on. I spend way too much attention on trying to make sure I get my injects all the time, but it's totally worth it. And, yeah, I think what you really need to work on this game is So when to drone, there's so many things. I say that, this guy's going fucking Blinkstalkers. You just built 10 of the units that get absolutely, that are not good at all against this army, alright? You can easily get high Templar or Dark Templar and get some Archons, and then get the, Archons are like the ultimate counter to mutas. Well, Phoenix, I guess, work really well too, but this army is very solid against going mutas, so I don't understand why you'd want to do that. Makes no sense at all. But anyways, you do some nice stuff. Some nice attacks here. You build off a lot of his economy, and I think that's probably. But your economy was so slow that you really lost all your workers again. But you really need to try and push the limit of your drone. So I mean, you can basically drone straight for the first 5 minutes and be completely safe against Protoss, right? So I'll just go over some things that really help me. I learned these timings and they really help me with my droning, right? And then at about the 5 minute mark, you want to scout and see what it's doing. And then there, if you see like a 4 gate, you know it's probably going to hit at around the 6 minute mark. So at about the 5 minute mark, as soon as you scout that out, you'll maybe scout at like 5:15, 5:30. You want to start immediately pumping out as much army as you can, right? However, some other timings that are good to know. First Phoenix will probably arrive at your base at about the same time, so you'll scout that at the 5 minute mark. That's why the 5 minute mark is such a great time to scout. If your opponent goes, 3 gate expand, if that's what you scout, or you see an expansion, you have to watch out for some of the 2 base timings. Some of the important ones for that are the 6 gate push, which will hit at about the 8 or 9 minute mark. So you'll have to be ready for that. And if you suspect that, you want to scout at around, if you can, you should be on layer tech by now, right? So you should have a speed overlord or a speed overseer, and you should be able to scout this out. You want to send in an overlord at about the 8 minute mark to really see what's going on, and then you want to try and defend it as best you can with Roach Ling or just Mass Roach works pretty well. And then also first Colossus on 2 base, you'll see it at around like the fastest possible time they can really get one out will be like the 10-11 minute mark, so you don't have to really worry about Colossus before that. And those are just some nice times that'll hopefully help you drone a little bit better. So in between those times, right? So from like 0 to 5 minutes, you can basically straight drone. You want like maybe 6 lings to kind of get map control and scout around. But in general, unless you see your opponent trying to move out and really put some early like proxy pressure on you or something, you can pretty much straight drone, right, for the first 5 minutes. Then from about 5 minutes to 6 minutes, you have to be a little bit careful until you figure out what he's doing. And that's kind of like a danger time, right? So you really don't want to heavily drone there. You want to consider getting some lings, figure out what he's doing, do your best to, do your best to figure out what he's doing, basically. So at that point, you figure out what he's doing, you then react accordingly. So if he's going to 4-gate you, right, you would build units till you're sure you've defended against it. If he's going to do a fast expand, well then you're like, alright, fine. Build a handful of lings. You need maybe 20 lings, I think at this point is a good number to deal with that fast expand sort of build, right? Because if he decides to move out, you can kind of punish him for that with a number of lings, and then you just immediately go back to droning until about the 8 minute mark, right? So you don't drone pretty much straight from like the 5:30, 6 minute mark till about the 8 minute mark. And then from there, you figure out what he's doing again around that time, good time, 8 minute mark, and figure out what he's doing and then get a way to deal with it accordingly, right? So if he's going for a 6-gate push, you want to get roaches, and probably burrow is the most popular way to deal with it. You can also try and add some hydras if you feel that's acceptable. If he's going like Stargate build or whatever, you want to get hydras, obviously, stuff like that. And then after that, after you figure out he's going, you feel safe, you feel like you're comfortable in that situation, you want to expand, and it'll be about around the 9 minute mark by the time you probably figure everything out, right? You want to expand, and then keep droning till about the 11 or 12 minute mark, right? Once you get to the 11 or 12 minute mark, that's when the next timing push is. And you want to scout again, and really figure out if he's gonna go Colossus. You probably want to throw up a Spire. Usually I throw up a Spire around the 10-11 minute mark, just to be safe, right? But if you do see the Colossus, definitely go that route. Go with the Corruptors to deal with that. If you see Stargate play, well, you should have scouted the Stargate play before. So if you see that, you definitely would add the Hydra Den. If you just see a lot of well, okay, so the staple, like in that mid-time, right, you should get some roaches out slowly, but you should still basically be focusing on droning, right? And then, so if you see a situation where he's going like mass a lot of immortals in his army, then you want to back off on the roaches and get some more lings and possibly some hydras, right? And this is kind of how the game should progress. And then that basically puts you, if you drone in all those different segments really heavily when you know you should be relatively safe in those segments, right? You should, by about the 12-minute mark, the last time you scout, you should be getting close to having like 60, 70 workers. And that's the economy you want for the rest of the game. So once you get to that, then you really, really start pumping out units as heavily as possible. You want to max as fast as possible, and then just respond from there. And, replace any drones like every time you build a building, build another drone, right? Anytime you lose some drones, make sure to replenish them about the same number, right? But at that point, if you follow kind of an idea like that, where you know the specific times where you're really vulnerable, I'm trying to say is you should be able to get at 70 drones a lot quicker than you did here. And I think that combined with not blind countering, which is just silly. You built all these corruptors for no reason at all, right? But that combined with blind countering is some of the stuff you really need to work on. So I think if you really play some games where you focus on being aware of the time and being aware of when you need to do things like scout. So I said, some of the key times for scouting are like the 5-minute mark, the 8-minute mark, and like the 11, roughly 10, 11 minute mark, right? 10, I'll say 10, because usually, the first Colossus will pop at about 11 to 12, right? So 10, if you scout at about the 10, you should be able to see a RoboBay going up. If you focus on those key times, like I said, so remember those times, 5, 8, 10, and then drone heavily in between once you figure out what he's going each one of those times, I think it'll really allow you to just get such a stronger economy. So I hope that really helps you. I don't know, like I said at the beginning, I would prefer if people send me replays where you lose. I think they're a better learning experience for everybody involved, but this is definitely, I have no problem going over these replays. I think I think you did a lot of things right here. You had some good army control, you attacked all the different places at the right time, but you did a lot of macro oriented things wrong here, and a lot of obvious mistakes that you can easily fix. And the thing is, yeah, so you might try and fix some of these issues, right? And you'll die. You'll lose, probably, for sure. You'll lose some games because of it. You'll be like, oh, what does Siraz know? He's telling me to do all these things, and it just causes me to lose. I could win otherwise, right? Well, yeah, you'll lose some games, but in the long run, you'll get a lot fucking better if you do some of these things to really kind of fix your gameplay and really try and fix the little issues you have with your gameplay. So I really hope this helps. I feel like I say, oh, you're I spent a half an hour being like, this guy did so many things wrong, blah 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 blah, and players that send me replays are probably like, oh, I don't want to hear myself getting ripped on for half an hour. That's not my intention here. I'm really trying to help you get better by pointing out your mistakes, your large mistakes, and I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to help you get better. So hope you don't take any of it personally. With that, I hope this helps some other players as well. And if anyone wants, some coaching, or wants to send me replays, definitely send me an email at siraztv@gmail.com. I keep plugging this, but I want to try and a much larger focus on helping players here than I have in the past. I've done a lot of commentary of pro level games, but I really want to try and help some of the struggling Zerg players, as I think a lot of players in the Zerg community are really frustrated with the race at the moment, and I want to try and help alleviate some of that frustration. I know I get very annoyed some of my losses as Zerg, but so send me an email if anyone's interested. It's siraztv@gmail.com. With that, so I was saying, see y'all later.